Good morning. On this bowl of QuestionCrunch, Ian Phillips is here to talk about his career in painting miniatures, answering questions about his process, some tools of the trade, and painting monsters from a Lisa Frank universe. I have been endlessly amazed by everything you paint, every single miniature that you post. It just blows my fucking mind. I, I don't know how to. I don't even know how to even remotely downplay how amazing your stuff is. That's not even a question. I'm just commenting you. You're like,
Thank you. Thank you very much.
what? And I've been always curious about like where does that? It's weird to say where does that talent come from, but I would like to know like what is your history painting miniatures?
Oh, that started back when I was about 12. I'd go to the mall and see like a game shop or like a games workshop set up with their little terrain or like their display cases. And I thought that was so cool. And then when we started playing Dungeons and Dragons, I wanted to like, paint my miniature, paint my character. And from there, it just kind of grew and grew. And then I did the band thing. So the painting went on the back burner for a while and had to be a cool rock star for like 5 seconds. And then I started picking it up actually a little before I started dating your sister. I made her paint a model with me one night. It was horrific, but she survived.
As someone who has a hard time painting, because like I always have I have trouble controlling the brush. Like with pens or pencils, I can feel the impact on the paper. But when it
Right.
comes to a brush and not being able to, it's just painting has never been a thing for me. Let alone painting such a small thing as a miniature.
Well, I'm nearsighted, so that helps. I take these off. Everything right here is super detailed and great. So when I have to look far away, I have glasses to help, as you well know. It's
Now you
achievement.
have well, I was gonna say you have a lot of really cool lighting on the miniatures that you paint and you post. But one of the really amazing things that I loved was that you, if a character is holding a lamp, you've painted a light from the lamp on there, and it makes such a really awesome effect.
That's called OSL, Object Source Lighting. So you cheat and you use an airbrush. So you just kind of, they're holding the light somewhere like this little model here. I
Hmm.
don't know if I can, right there. So if I want her to light up, I'll like aim as a circle in the beginning of her hand and then work in circles out and then gently go back and back and back and pull and it'll give you that lighted effect. So
That's so cool.
it's a cheat. You can do it with a brush, but it takes forever. An airbrush cheats and makes it look amazing.
Cheats are fine. Like people will say cheat, or they're like, "Oh, I found like a hack," and I'm like, "No, that's the whole thing about art. If you find those little like clues and find little secrets that you can play with, do it. That's the whole process."
But I,
Um,
but I think Jimmy, as an artist, you realize and you're educated enough to know that it isn't the labor you put into it. Picasso did one flick of a wrist and it was a Picasso because he practiced that 10,000, 20,000, 30,000 times to be able to go flick, flick. And that famous quote he has on the napkin where he does something and he wants $10,000 for it or whatever because it took him a lifetime to do it. That's the whole thing. And I think, especially in the miniature painting world, the videos you watch are, how can I do this thing? This person's been painting for so long, drawing for so long. You know how to get there quick. And it looks like magic to someone who's beginning or doesn't have the skill set yet. And it's a lot of pressure. It's a lot of pressure to like, you could do it too if you put the time and energy into it.
and I've told plenty of folks that being an artist means that you're gonna pretty much be at school for the rest of your life because you're gonna be doing homework every single day and studying and working on that and just long hours working on homework.
Yeah, if you want to be good. I mean,
And you are phenomenal. Some of the color choices that you make are just breathtaking. I feel like anytime anyone in any kind of Zoom meeting or conversation, if someone mentions D&D, well, I'm not a D&D person myself, and so the only thing I've got is you, And so when someone says they're like, "Oh, I'm interested in D&D," I was like, "So you like miniatures? Check out this account that I know."
Thank you, Jimmy. Thank you.
I'm going to be I'm just like a constant hype man whenever it comes to anyone. Whenever I know an artist doing something, I have to recommend them.
You are definitely the biggest cheerleader I know for everybody you enjoy their art of, for sure.
Where does and your handle is Iron Tusk. That's where people can find you on Instagram and social
Yeah.
media and everything, right?
Yeah. Iron Tusk
Um,
painting. Yeah.
I know you're on TikTok. I just followed you because I saw that you mentioned that you were on TikTok, and I was like, all right,
Right.
I'll follow you. But I'm barely ever on that app.
It's an interesting app. I'm at an age where I probably shouldn't be there, but I'm still young enough to get it. I'm in that zillennial wavefront. So I get it, but mine are basically just whatever I posted as a stupid little video on Instagram, and so I'm trying too, man. I don't have that knack. There's some really good TikTok accounts.
There are some really good TikTok accounts. I just feel like whenever I go on TikTok and it says, "Do you want to follow these people?" I'm like, no. I just automatically want to go to the people I'm already following. I don't, which is not what TikTok wants. TikTok wants
Right.
to advertise people. I'm like, no, I want to go to the people I know.
Yeah, but sometimes you find great people through the people you know. I just follow like cat videos mostly for your niece, so we can pull them up quick, and then other artists and stuff. But I don't know. I find watching mostly other miniature paintings kind of boring. Not because they're not talented. It's just I already know what they're doing. I'm not learning anything new. So I always follow like the Spanish ones that are like so advanced. They're doing like two-dimensional non-metallic metallic on a three-dimensional, and it's like incredible. So.
What does that mean?
So like in the Renaissance when they were using basically the grayscale to create chrome on like armor.
Yeah.
So instead of using like a metallic paint with metallic pigments in it, you're literally recreating a non-metallic metallic finish on a miniature, as if it was like a Rembrandt or something.
That's amazing. What does that entail? I haven't seen that.
Like literally depends on the metal color, but grays, whites, blacks, and then you just go back and forth until you build them up. And some people can do it so good it looks like chrome, and there's no chrome paint. It's all just sky reflection, earth reflection, a white line. It's amazing. I'm still working on that.
I'm looking very forward to that. Where does the name Iron Tusk come from?
Well, I don't know. One night I was stoned out of my mind listening to Mastodon, and the song Iron Tusk came on. And I was like, that's it. There it is. That's perfect. Never realizing how many letters an Iron Tusk miniature painting at gmail.com would be. So I started that, and then eventually I got it down to just Iron Tusk painting. I've been trying to look for Iron Tusk, but it's all like taken already. So gotta do what you gotta do. But yeah, you remember those nights at the condo coming over
Yeah. No,
for you and me, and she couldn't believe where Jesus came from.
I know that there's always like really amazing breakthroughs whenever whenever drugs are involved. Don't do drugs, kids, but they are pretty awesome.
Don't do drugs that will eat away your life savings and destroy your relationships. But if you can handle it, a little goes a long way.
I actually was watching the Grateful Dead documentary on Amazon. I think it's called like Weird Trip or something. It's
Right.
strange.
Strange Trip, maybe. I think your sister watched it.
I think it's Strange Trip. It's really awesome. And I was just thinking about when you were talking about figuring out the name Iron Tusk, it made me think of the Grateful Dead one where he opens up the dictionary and he's like, that word looks neat. And it's like, sometimes that works that way.
Kind of was that way. Yeah, I thought it was cool. What do I know?
I think
Now
it's
I'm
got a
stuck.
nice ring to it.
Well, then I had to come up with a logo idea. And I'm like,
Hmm.
what's an Iron Tusk? You remember gave it to you the first time. I'm like, you figure it out, Jimmy.
Oh, I suck at logos. I
it,
suck at logos.
it took you 9 months to come up with a dog. And I was like, I don't know. So
Whenever an artist comes, whenever someone comes to me and is like, "Hey, I'm looking for a logo," I'm like, "I'm not your guy. I'm not
at
your
least you
guy."
know. At least you know. And that's like, yeah, I want you to do this. Not my thing. Not my thing.
I feel like logos are so tricky because you have to deal with the font and you have to deal with like a million types of fonts and a million ways you can do the million different fonts. And then
Yeah.
when you find a font, it's like, oh well, I can change it this way, I can stretch it this way, I can make a thickness, thinness. I'm like, ah, it's a headache.
Commissions suck. You know that. Commissions are a
I
pain in the ass.
I'm okay with commissions when they have full faith in me.
Like anything you do is golden and you're done. Do
Yeah,
you know how rare that is in miniature painting? I want a guy with a feather coming out of both eyebrows, and like he's got like two nostril rings, but they're in the fourth dimension, but they got to be a color no one's ever seen before. Can you give me any art references? No. So you try it
you
and you're like,
got it.
I don't like it. Just spent like 4 or 5 hours painting one nostril.
Now, I think I mentioned this in the podcast before, but have you ever gotten the request where someone says, "Hey, where's that thing?" And you're like, "You never mentioned that thing." It's like, "Oh, well, I want it." And you're like, "Cool. That would have been really helpful if you mentioned that when I was working on it."
Yeah, I've had a few of those. Or they want to switch up. I did a Terramat, which is like that five-headed dragon, and each dragon is a particular color classically. And the person wanted after I'm all done, and they're like, "Oh, I wanted this color for this one and that one." I'm like, "I'm not doing this again. I'll take off a few $100. You get it, or I'll sell it and make the same money back. See ya."
And they didn't tell you the colors that they wanted prior to you painting?
I just figure I'm gonna read their mind or something.
That's so bizarre. I feel like a lot of people don't know that artists are just creating something completely out of nowhere.
They don't, Jimmy. They
That's
don't. They have no clue, man. They just think you have their vision, or they'll go, "Do it like this." Or my favorite, "You have a style, Jimmy. I have a style. Maybe we don't see our own style, but people can pick out our own style." And then they want you to do something in completely somebody else's style to copy. Like, I can't do that. Hire that artist to do it in their style. So, what are you
I've
gonna
told
do?
I've told people I can get pretty close, but it's still gonna look like mine. And if someone's like, "Oh, can you draw it like Alex Ross?" I'm like, "Oh, nope."
I'm
I
hiring you for your artist skill. I'm hiring you because I want your style. That's how it should be.
I am flattered that someone thinks I can do Alex Ross style, but I'm definitely nowhere near that level.
Well, that's great. Yeah. But it's like what is that coupe style, that really kind of pin-upy voluptuous style. I can see people. Can you do it like this? You're like, I'll do my own version of it. Sure.
One thing that I really loved was I got a script where someone told me that a character has to be laying down on the ground, and
Right.
I kept thinking to myself, there's so many ways you can lay down on the ground. I need to know more context. Is this person dead? Is the person laying down sexy? What the fuck?
Are they
Like,
prone? Are they spread eagle? Are they holding their head up? Are they daydreaming? Are they holding their ears out?
if I
And
draw
then
someone with their arms crossed on their chest, that has a whole different look.
is it are they faking it? Well, that's how your niece sleeps sometimes. A little
Oh,
vampire catcher too. Gothic girl.
are they laying on their arm? I need to know much more context. When
And then
if
it's the
they're
face. Then
yeah,
you got the pose down. Now are they happy? They sad? They're doing some kind of weird face. Are they making fun of a face?
if they're dead, what killed them? Did someone pose them in that position, or did they blow? Did they get shot and now they're on the ground?
Right. What
I need
stage
to
of
know.
decomposition? Are they bloaty? They got the flies yet? Well, yeah. But I don't think people think on that details. That's why we're artists. We
It's
it's like a bumblebee in a hive, right? It just explodes, and you have all these other ideas, and you want to focus those ideas so you don't have to do like 1,000 drafts. But at the same time, you want to give them all the options at the same time.
yeah. Speaking of decomposition, I forget what website it was, but when I was at Midsummer Scream one time, I was in line, and the person who I think she was in front of me or behind me, but she started talking about it, and she works in I think it was props or
Okay.
special effects, something like that. But she had a website that she has to look up gory shit. Like she has to look up how bodies decompose, or if a body gets cut, how flesh looks like when it's cut. Do you have a website like that to help?
I have the internet, Google Images. So, I mean, I guess you
I'm
could
the same
type it
way.
in. Yeah, it's like that's I asked for a lot of art reference. So, like,
Hmm.
give me art reference. Tell me, like, oh, I want dark steel. Give me some references I can use. And then once I have a gathering of references, as long as I'm in that ballpark of references, I'm okay. But if they're like, make it silver and I make it like aluminum right silver, like, that's not what I meant. I meant antique Victorian silver, dummy. No. You know, Jimmy?
I totally know, and it's really weird how even the color palette changes everything. If you
No.
tell me where to go, I can match colors along that genre, but you have to give me something.
Yep. Totally get it.
Like if someone tells me, if someone told me that there's such a difference, so let's take the color, I don't know, red. Let's take the color
Right.
red. If you tell me that we want it from Wes Anderson versus Ralph Bakshi, I'm gonna know what kind of red I need to lean towards. And so very different. And well, okay, so I want to go back to the decomposition because one of my favorite things was when
Yeah, these are all red. All these are
well,
red. Vampire red, lip red, Mars red, pink red, whatever. Yeah, to your point.
and
Red's a
then you have to
thousand different reds.
and then you mix that red with other stuff to make it completely different red.
Wet palette, right? Here's red. I'll put my flag. Mixed up with other colors to do purple red, blue blood. Yeah, I get it. I get it, Jimmy.
I got one script where someone had to stab someone, and I looked up a lot of photos of people getting stabbed because I was like, I've never actually seen someone get stabbed. I don't know how that looks. I've only seen movies, and I mean, if I draw someone's hand against a body, you don't know if there's a knife. You don't know if someone's got cut. I have to make it look somewhat real, and
Right,
then
you have
put a
to put
little
it off to an
twist.
angle. Yeah, you have to put it off
Yeah.
to an angle to show the impact of that knife. Yeah, I get it. I get it.
What is your process when creating a figure?
Um, if you're saying like I build a figure, I really don't do that. But like, let's just say like I have to use like Hero Forge to create a miniature. Again, art references. Give me as much as you can. And sometimes you get stuck in a position where like if they have feathers everywhere, and in particular the builder doesn't have the feathers in the right spot. So you either it depends on the client too. Some clients are gonna like I'm adamant about where these feathers are. You're gonna have to sculpt feathers out of like a two-part epoxy, a green stuff or a brown stuff or a gray stuff. Or you're lucky enough to be able to go ahead and get the modeler, the 3D modeler to have something close enough. And then from there, it's just painting and using the references and zooming in and then applying your own style.
And you have a 3D printer now, and I love those. Does that help? Like, are you able to? So you said you have a 3D modeler. Do you make the feathers on there? Because I remember many years ago you showed me that you add stuff with resin. You're able to sculpt stuff and add stuff to the sculpture. And is that the same thing when you're saying the 3D modeler that you're just like, here goes a feather, and you are able to put it there?
Right. There's some programs to do that. I have a lot of 3D printers, and you use once in a while you'll get something from an artist that are like pre-supported, and you can pull it into a slicer program, and that slicer program will then read all the individual layers, and then render it out, and then you can just put it into the printer, and the printer will build it layer by layer by layer by layer. But I don't really do any 3D artistry like in ZBrush or anything like that. I have friends who can. So I just, hey, can you do this for me? Hey, here's this. Can you break this apart? So I don't particularly have any skill sets in that. But Jamie, ZBrush, if you don't have the skill set, get that skill set. You'll be rich.
Good to know. I'll keep that in mind.
Because you can do freelance miniature or character development and then send it out to them, take a portion of it like a Kickstarter or whatever, and be rich.
Would you recommend Z? I don't even know what ZBrush is. I haven't even seen that one. I was even
ZBrush
thinking about.
is. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, I was thinking because I was looking at Blender because Blender's free and I was playing with that for a little bit. But you recommend ZBrush?
ZBrush. Blender is good. ZBrush is better. ZBrush you can like create like almost like a sculpt out of like 3 dimensional, and then you can shape it all up. Look up ZBrush tutorials, and you'll see what I'm talking about. That's like what they use in the movies to create like aliens and everything else. And the more polygons, the smoother it is. But then you got to export. But everybody builds on it. I'll send you a couple people that build miniatures and figures in ZBrush, and then they have their own like Patreon and all that. So
Yeah, I would definitely like to check that out.
you could do like bin better and all your
Hmm.
characters, and then get them 3D printed. I'll do it for you.
Deal, deal. But what I love about your miniatures is one thing that I always see that I don't think I see anywhere else is that you add stuff to the base. Like you add bushes, you add grass, you add rocks, and it adds a lot to it. And it was something so seemingly insignificant, but it makes things real for me. It's just fantastic. Um, and that's another step that I was curious about creating a figure is like, how do you get to that point where you're like, this needs this thing? And I know it from the comic perspective, but it's so strange. Like, whenever I see an art that I'm not familiar with doing that thing, it's just like, where does that mindset come from?
The basing is pretty common, and a lot of war game terrain will do a base like a grass base or rock or terrain. It just depends on the figure and where it's at and what I feel like doing. I don't know. It's just whimsical at this point. For example, like this guy, he's like a Frankenstein orc. I don't know if I can get him closer to the thing. So I just
That'll
did
work, I guess.
rocks, right? I just did rocks, and I just dip it. And I have this tub that anytime I go someplace that's interesting, I'll grab a handful of dirt and throw it in this tub. So it has like sand dune dust. I have white sand for White Sands, New Mexico. When I was there for like 5 minutes, it's got gravel, it's got bits, and it's random. So it's all just throw it on there. And then another one will be like, I'm just starting this guy. He's like a large goblin. He has no base yet. I don't know what I'm gonna do yet. I'll figure it out. But then I cheat, like we talked about earlier. Resin 3D printed or precast resin bases that are already done for you. Just throw them on there. Makes it easy. And it also leads to like an army or a D&D band of characters. Having the same base also unites them. Like if I get a band of characters, I try to find one color each, the same color on each of them. One could be a shoe, one could be a backpack, an arrow, whatever it is. Try to make one color work, and they're all in the same type of base. Kind of unites the group.
It's interesting that you say unite because I feel like a lot of people don't know how important that is. Because if you have like a superhero and you want to unite the costume, you want certain themes, you want certain colors being like used multiple places. And if you have an army and you want them to all seem like an army that's all teamed up together, you want reoccurring colors to let people know that this is a team.
Right. That's very common. That's why when they paint armies for like Warhammer 40K, they're all the same miniature, the same color, the same scheme, the same everything. So it's this united front on the table. It looks fantastic.
Different colors are fun when you want it to be emphasized that this is a hodgepodge of characters, that they're not really unified. They're fighting together, but they're not organized. They're not
Right. So you get something like an orc army. So the skin or maybe the armor will all be generally the same, but then you put rust in different places and mismatched weapons, but the skin and the armor color and chipping will all kind of unite the craziness, if you will.
I love talking to anyone about color theory and letting them know that there's a lot of shit that artists are trying to get your mind to do all of the work, and they're just manipulating your mind to subconsciously get you there.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I love color theory. I love playing with it. I have the color index Bible. You can mess around and get like crazy like just turquoise off of light turquoise off of light turquoise, and then you have a splash of like purple just to kind of break it all up or whatever it may be. But yeah, color theory is amazing.
And I know I mentioned that in Zoom meetings, whenever someone says anything about D&D, I bring you up. There's been so many screen shares where I'll just scroll through your Instagram, I'm like, oh, check this out. Oh, check this out. And a lot of time will go past, and I'm like, oh, shit, I totally hogged the Zoom. Well, no regrets.
Those poor people. It's like forcing them to watch YouTube channels they don't want to watch, but they're being polite. Oh yeah,
Yeah, that's a shame. Appreciate this and give him a follow.
yeah. Check this guy out.
No, but seriously, send the follows. All the follows.
All
He's
the
got his
follow.
links. He's got social media. You're on that app? Cool. Follow Iron Tusk everywhere. All of them. What has been one of your favorite creations?
This last one I did, it's called the Shade Mother for Critical Role. It was. I got the art, I got the file, I printed them all out. I took a few times to print them to get them oriented right. Sometimes you think you got it, and then like you just miss this one. They called islands. It's this one little layer that no supports on to hold up the model part, like to grow a thumb or like your hands out like this. And if you don't have this one part here, you have no thumb. It just doesn't grow out. So it took a few. And once we got it right, it was really cool. And then it was like this giant bug, sacky kind of gross thing, and it was fun. And then you just start having fun. You base it on the artwork, and then I just did my own thing to it, and I got approved. It was really fun.
So when you say the islands thing, is that because like I've seen 3D printing and I'm still not too familiar with
Okay,
every element behind it. When you say islands, those are the sticks, right? That
those
tell
are
you
the supports. The islands
okay.
would be like little sections the supports attached to build the structure out. And depending on how you orient the model, where the slicer program will detect the first little bits where everything is, and it doesn't detect all of them. And sometimes if it doesn't, you don't catch it with a manual scan, or it just gets missed. It may not print half the model because it's just that one little micro area that needed to support the entire build didn't get supported, so the printer goes right past it and doesn't build on it. So it's a lot of trial and error.
And I realized that when I said stick and I did a hand gesture that everyone listening to the podcast doesn't know what I'm doing. A vertical stick that
Right,
lets the printer know that a thumb needs to happen. And if the stick
right,
isn't there, the thumb's not going to happen because the
correct,
computer's not
correct.
going to read your mind yet.
Not yet. It's getting there. They're getting there.
It's
We're
going to
getting,
suck when you do a 3D print and the computer puts an ad on the back of your character.
or you'll just pay for the monthly fee to avoid all ads.
Pay this and your orcs won't have an ad for foot cream.
Exactly. Unless you want it to be the foot cream orcs, maybe it'll work in your advantage.
Joke's on them. I am fine with ads. It's
Bungaloids.
it's amusing because YouTube. I love when YouTube fine tunes my ads where they're like, here's some movie trailers. I'm like, yeah, I won't skip a movie trailer. That's the best. I'm the market for movie trailers. If I'm doing 3D printing and you want to put a movie trailer on the back of my character, I'm game. Let's do this.
But don't you see the same movie trailer? So it's like, oh my God, not this one again.
It depends on what movie it is.
Okay, that's true.
Because like I want to watch Deep Water on Hulu. That movie just came out. That looks sexy as hell. Um, but the trailer is boring. I don't want to watch the trailer over and over again. But if you have a trailer for the Batman, I'll watch that over and over again.
Okay. Yes.
I haven't watched.
I go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say I haven't watched the movie yet, but every scene is just visually gorgeous.
Well, it's Batman, and you're, predisposed to loving all things Batman.
That is true. I am biased.
Super biased.
But people have, even people who hate movies have said that they like this new movie. So
Yeah,
I
totally. It looks good. I'll wait for it on video.
I think I heard someone say that it was going to come out to HBO Max in April or something or next month. So I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to go see it there, if I'm just going to wait for it to come to HBO Max, or if I'm going to go see it in the theater. I still haven't really felt courageous enough. I haven't mustered the courage to go to a movie theater yet, which is really bad because like I loved movie theaters. I loved the crowds. I loved going there on premiere night, and now I'm just like, don't you dare breathe on me.
Yeah, well, you can go to a matinee or something. Nobody's in there still.
That is what I'm thinking about doing for Batman.
And you can spend the extra few bucks and buy a couple, seats around you. And then now you have this like encased bubble.
My friend asked me, they're like, so would you go see Batman if I rented the whole theater? I'm like, yeah, fuck yeah. What are you talking about? Like,
But only me in the theater that you have to find.
I've checked. My friends are good about making sure everyone's vaxxed. I remember back during what was it, December or November? It was during Hanukkah. I went to a party and I was just like, hooray for vaccinations, right? Just to test to see who, if anyone fights me, they aren't vaccinated.
A little social grenade.
But you gotta
Shoot
say
sticks.
you gotta say something that'll offend a conservative person to find out if they're vaccinated or not.
Holy shit, man.
I drew a comic where I'm just like I recently drew a comic where I'm yelling let's go Brandon, and if I hear someone respond, they're not vaccinated.
You are crazy. You are too political. I'm neutral. Iron Tusk is neutral. 100%. Has no opinions about anything. That's a
Which
safe.
is that is a good route because that lets you have a wider audience, a wider following, which is oftentimes the smartest decision.
And I don't think it's my place as a miniature painter to make any really critiques on anything political from that end. What I feel as Ian Phillips is different from what Iron Tusk feels. Like, I'm allowed to separate the two. I'm here, if anything, you're painting miniatures or watching me paint or enjoy the art for art's sake, not a political statement of, shall we all worship Cthulhu or whatever it may be. It's, not my place.
Do you have anyone that tries to bring politics into it?
No, I have a different problem. I have people who like me or friend me or talk to me because I'm so close to the Critical Role people. So you kind of like, you don't want to be rude, but at the same time, you're like, I don't want to talk to you.
What do you mean? Why?
Like they'll always end the conversation. Well, if you ever need any help with any of the Critical Role minutes, you let me know. And I don't have the heart to tell them you can't even paint fucking eyes, man. I'm not reaching out to you. It's always the people who have no talent that want to like jump on your back and like ride it like a little crazy monkey or something. You're like, nyeh, 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 nyeh. And then you have to like not be nice to them, or like ignore them and have to pull that whole like I don't have to answer you. So that's a whole new thing for me. I wasn't used to that.
That's so strange because they just want to get some of that critical light shimmer onto them, critical role shimmer onto them.
The fan base is fanatical.
Hmm.
The crew, the cast, everybody's amazing, but the fan base is friggin' fanatical. I was painting the second season first minis. The ones they started to end up using was done by Matt Hart. Phenomenal. But I got the first set that were done in bronze and brass, and I didn't get one of the characters yet. I got hate mail, death threat hate mail, because I did not physically have the miniature in my possession to paint that miniature to show on my Instagram that I had the miniature of this particular voice actor character that they liked.
Holy shit!
Yeah. 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 I
What was the
eventually got that miniature, and the reason was it was Ashley Johnson. She was on the TV show Blind Spot or whatever at the time. She was
Mhm.
doing filming for that, so she didn't even give the information to Matt Mercer, the dungeon master, to give to me yet. There was nothing to do. That wasn't even in existence yet. So the fan base is fanatical.
What was the kind of death threats that you received?
Like, I'll fucking hunt you down and kill you if you don't like paint that thing up. I want to see it. I love this person. And there were a lot of them. I think it was more focused on she is the actress. The person loved her, like obsessive compulsive. And it was just, this is the character she's going to play. I need to see everything about it. Why don't you have it? So it was like a fanaticism.
Wow.
Oh,
Because I've received not death threats, but I've had people tell me. It's funny when people tell me people insult me with an acronym because then I have to Google what the acronym stands for.
yeah, man. I totally like, what the fuck is this now?
Are you
Yeah.
trying to hurt my feelings? I don't know what these letters mean, man. I don't want to have to do homework to find out what you're saying about me.
Yeah. 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 Well, welcome to getting old, Jimmy.
I've you say that, but I've never been young enough to understand acronyms.
Yeah, they get worse. I'm just what? Well, one I see all the time, I always have something else in my head, and I'm like, this sentence doesn't make sense. I have to look it up. Oh, for when the time. Oh, I have like fucking Wheel of Fortune or something in my head.
I don't want to solve your riddle to be
Yeah,
insulted.
exactly.
Come at me with simple insults. Fuck.
Yeah, just tell me to go fuck off or whatever.
Tell me I smell bad. That'll be so much easier than having to figure out what your inside joke is about me.
Right. Another.
Would you?
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you were going to start something. I want to hear what you're going to start.
So I did a painting show with Critical Role called Mini Primetime. And I was just the technical person that painted this stuff. I wasn't on screen or anything. But man, I went through the comments. The hate there was hilarious. Just oh my God, why did they do it this way? I'm like, because the production schedule, like they don't have any insight of how any of this works. But everybody's like a sideline quarterback and have it all figured out. They know what they're going to do. And like, you have no information. Just enjoy this. But people like hating. People like trolling. It's in their blood.
It's funny because, okay, so I don't mind doing video of me drawing because that's just me doing drawing. You can't give me any tips, or I mean, if you do have tips, a lot of times you're an actual artist and your tips make sense.
Right.
But I won't do any videos of me doing anything digital because then people have opinions and I don't want to hear anything from the peanut gallery.
Yeah. I don't know how people on Twitch do it. And maybe the ones that have like 2 or 3 people watching them and they're like, oh my God, it's the greatest thing I've ever seen. Awesome. Then you have people who are like 5,000-6,000 people who watch them. They're just, oh man, I hate the way they did it. Wow. You have time for that? How do you have time for that? Tell me where you find this time to hate.
And the motivation, where does the motivation come from? Like you actually have to go into the comment section to be able to type that up. And the confidence it takes to be like, man, I'm gonna have such a stinging insult, and I'm gonna spell every word correctly so I don't look like an asshole when I'm being an asshole.
No, totally. Yeah, everybody's gonna side with me. Watch this. They fucking suck.
Oh, I'm gonna be so cool. I'm gonna have so many fans with this one insult.
Yep.
Damn.
Burned you. Go to bed tonight. I burned that guy. He's gonna sit there and think about it.
One of my favorite things is I think it was a friend. Someone insulted a friend, and I come back at them, and they're like, dude, I'm just having an opinion. I was like, and I am too. This is how it works.
Yeah.
You making your opinion. I'm not censoring you. I'm not getting rid of your opinion. I'm just saying I'm interacting with you now.
Right.
Your entitlement to an opinion goes with me too. I get to have it as well. And I'm teaching you that some opinions hurt feelings.
And then you're a snowflake, right? Then you're a wuss. You're some derogatory remark or whatever the person has to come up with because you're not tough enough to handle their criticism. Yet they've never painted anything, they've never drawn anything, they've never put their self out there. And that's just it. If you do any of that stuff, you are opening yourself to just trolls and hate comments and the best thing I think, any advice I can tell you is just don't read the comments at all. Doesn't matter, good or bad, just don't read them. Just do what you do.
My favorite insult is beta. I fucking love hearing beta. I love hearing people call me beta. Yeah, it's the
like instead of alpha, beta, gamma, delta, echelon.
Well, they don't go down the rest of the alphabet.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. Like alpha's number 1, right? Beta's number 2. So then Charlie's number 3. Is that right? Am I going military now?
And I will often ask him. I was like, which other letter can I be? Can I be further down? Like, why stay at beta? That's just second place. I can go further. There's 26 letters, man.
Go for it. Yeah. Oh, beta. Oh my God.
It's hilarious, and I feel so bad because so I forget the name of the scientist, but the scientist who came up with the term alpha, the alpha male or the alpha of the pack. Right. He did the research, and he's like, well, he did the research, and then he came up with this term, and he wrote a book, and everyone loved the term, and then a few years later, he's like, I've done more research. And I was full of shit. Alpha does not exist. There's no alpha male. There's no alpha of the pack. It's not real. And people were like, no, I don't believe you. I was like, no, I wrote the book, though.
Yeah, but it changes their narrative. It changes their narrative. I'm no longer number 1. Alpha's 1. A is 1. A is the first. Yeah.
And I've had a conversation where someone posted this thing that said, you know what the alpha males actually do? The alpha of the pack actually feed the rest of the people. So you're not alpha, you're just a dick. And I'm just like, no, there's no alpha. There's no it doesn't exist. And
Right.
they're like, oh, well, that's what they're saying. I'm like, no, they're saying that alpha does exist, but does a different thing. It doesn't exist. I can't stress that enough. There's no such thing.
People believe what they want to believe, man. You just let it go.
And
Okay.
they want to believe what they want to believe and ignore the person who's correcting himself. That's so weird. I love it.
Well, like I said, it changes their narrative and then what they have in their head. They believe this, and I mean, there's people who built entire companies on alpha and dog and number one, and those you'll destroy all that. Can't do that, Jimmy. You can't do that.
I like to think that that scientist feels like Dr. Frankenstein, like they made this monster and it's out of control.
Well, then you have the people with the pitchforks and the torches coming after old monster Frankensteins.
Which is funny because they're coming after the monster. Yeah, no shit. All right, this this comparison actually works out because like no one.
Universal Monster Deep Dive with Jimmy. Go.
It's not like the scientist is hiding at all. The guy who studied it and who came up with a term, he's not hiding that he came up with a term. His name is out there, but no one's going against him. No one even knows he exists. I know he exists, and I still don't know his name. I don't remember his name.
Call him Frankenstein.
Frankenstein. Frankenstein.
Frankenstein.
You're putting me on. um,
Good time.
would you prefer to paint a monster in a black and white universe or a Lisa Frank one?
Who the fuck is Lisa Frank?
Oh, Lisa Frank is Angie's
No,
the
your
face
sister
of
told
like
me. When I read that, I said the same thing. He goes, "You should say it, Ian. You should say it." I'm like, "But who is it?" I had to look it up. The world of trapper keepers and shit and unicorns. Black and white, which is a
I'm
lot
just
harder.
hold on. I'm glad that Nicole told you to say that because I'm just wondering how many people are actually. I wonder who's listening to this and they had the same kind of expression of like what.
Take a poll. Take a poll. Black and white or Lisa? Who knows who? I was like, what the fuck is this? Had to Google it. Google image it.
Well, I'm just curious because like I always love it whenever a cosplayer will do a black and white character and they'll be that their costume is black and white, their makeup is black and white, because it's just visually interesting to see a black and white character in the real world.
Right.
Uh, Pleasantville did it in their movie and it's cool, but in the real world, it's very jarring and very strange, and I just love it. And so I'm just wondering if you would want to make characters monsters, if you made like a kaiju monster and made it look like an old 50s movie where it's black and white, what would you prefer to do, black and white or the ridiculously vibrant world of Lisa Frank, where everything looks like you need sunglasses to look at?
I tend to lean toward the Frank because I just like color, and black and white done right is really, really hard in painting. Really hard because there's no black and there's no white. There's just colors of gray. But in miniatures, the smaller you go, the more contrast you need to make it pop. And the bigger you go, the less contrast you need, but the more people could see all the detail. So you're like, ooh, you got to take more time. So I'd go with color. Color's easier.
That would be incredibly hard. Like I know with when you're painting, isn't it like where when it dries it darkens? Is it the same thing with a miniature? Because like how would you know how to make the different shades of gray to make sure that it's different?
Well, believe it or not, yes, they do generally dry different than wet, but a lot of high-end miniature paints tend to really be as accurate as possible out of the bottle. So that's why you're paying $5 for, 0.17 milliliters of paint and using it a drop at a time is because you want what you see in the bottle is what you want on your color or character or miniature or whatever. So, but they do dry a little differently, especially if they have like a matte or a sheen or a satin finish, and each manufacturer does it a little differently.
I love matte so much.
That's great. That's the best.
Like even when people have like matte nail polish, I'm just always in love with matte. I love it so much.
It's cool. It's really well, it's everything's glossy to give it that slick look, but if you can do a matte, as you know, it looks really. If you can pull off matte, it looks really good.
I when I came up with the question, I kind of guessed that you would go with Lisa Frank because some of your monsters have had a Lisa Frank kind of look. Like I've seen shit, what's that monster? D&D fans are gonna be pissed off at me.
Oh well,
Um, it's the it's the eye monster.
the beholder.
Yeah, you've done a lot of really vibrant. Yeah, Beholder, and everyone's like, "What the fuck, Jimmy? You are definitely not a D&D player if you can't remember that monster's name."
And the thing is, Jamie, we talked about it, you'd be an amazing DM. You'd absolutely be with your imagination. You don't have to do miniatures. It could all be theater of the mind. You just have to read the damn rule book.
um, I've seen some of your Beholders, and a lot of them have been very vibrant and gorgeous.
Thank you.
And cause like I've done artwork of Beholders, and I've always like had to Google stuff to be able to understand what I think I even saw like a ghost Beholder, and that was pretty awesome.
Yeah.
And it's always so interesting to see what kind of colors you come up with for these monsters. Because it always makes me think of like the more vibrant beholders that you've done. I think about like the bright colored monsters monsters animals in the real world, where whenever there's something that's bright colored, it means that's poisonous, and it always makes me think about that whenever I see a monster of yours that's bright.
I like fantastical. When I first started painting, we do the black primer coat and paint over that, which obviously, as you well know, makes everything dark on top of it. And then for years, I said, well, I need to be brighter, so I used to paint everything white. And then you'd have like little specks of white in the deepest recesses that you just couldn't get to. So I kind of learned to do both, where I start black and then I zenithal prime from the top with white ink. So then that catches all the highlights. And then from there, you can play with all the colors going back and forth and mix and match or wet blend or, pointillism and give textures to things by running like thin lines or little dots and textures. All of it's thin to go back to our original thing to trick the eye and to trick the mind of the eyes, the mind's eye, if you will, into seeing a texture or a feeling or smoothness that you want. So yeah.
So there are some pieces that I've done where I've done like the base and then I add the highlights, and I liked how that looked, but I'm not done yet. But I still save that image just because I really enjoy what it looks like.
Right.
Do you have photos like of that where you know that you still have a lot of more you still have a lot more journey to go on with this miniature, but you still really enjoy how it looks like right now, so you just take a photo of that just to keep for yourself.
This guy. I really like
This
how
guy?
he's looking. Yeah, I can't. There we go. See if I can do this here.
Okay, that's better.
So he's like a bright green, and the camera's not. Nah, that's crap.
That's okay. That's all right.
But anyway, the he's bright green, really bright. Like I basically took this ink, this fluorescent ink, and used that. So
That's a cool green.
yeah, it's called Tesseract. It's a Games Workshop color. It's designed for their robot race laser beams. So anyway, I used that for the skin of the goblins because I wanted this hyper green. But they started off like this, dark green. And then I'll use a white ink spray on the top of it, and then I'll use that color that picks up the white ink, and then they're blended between the shadows as dark gray, and then they have this like hyper green on top, and then I'll go back through by hand and like paint in all the muscles with like a medium dark green. That's yeah.
What words of advice would you give to someone who wants to get into the miniature painting business?
Practice. Practice, 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 practice. Have fun with it, but practice. If you want to get in and you want to be a heavy hitter, you have to practice. You can't flake. You have to take on all projects. You have to sacrifice. I mean, I painted a long time for free before I started charging, just to get my name out there, just to get it out there. Anything it took. So, and don't quit your day job unless you're going to like broadcast or YouTube it up or make money off that. I don't really have those channels because I just don't have the time, but it's a lot of work. But if you want it, go for it.